Gamers, I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
And today, on this episode of What's on Our Table, it should actually be, called What Didn't Make It to the Table, because we were discussing games that travel well, travel games, whatever you want to call it. I think I'm going to title it Travel Games because it just flows off the tongue a little bit better. So, in front of us, we've got Call to Adventure, and we're talking about the games that didn't make it to the table while we were on vacation, which is why you didn't get a video for 1 week. And then we had some technical issues which caused the video to be delayed another week. So just hasn't been going our way. We enjoyed a little bit of a break, but we're glad to be back creating content for you today.
Yeah, so Jason packed some games while we went away. We flew, so we had some limited space, and we'll talk about the difference between road trip, board game travel, and when you're taking a flight.
Also depends on where you're going, your hotel room, the location, because sometimes you get a teeny table like this. Other times you have a big table or a table that's bigger than this one.
You're going right in. Okay, so.
Well, what else are we going to do? I mean,
I was gonna say, honestly, so we got off the plane, and Jason has all the best intentions. He's got a suitcase with games in it, and he'll tell you what he packed. And actually, we're going through the Orlando airport, and I'm like, "Hey, Jay, look! That family's playing Dino Dump on their lap."
No idea what Dino Dump is. Never seen it before. First time we ever saw it in the wild. But
I said, it's possible they're playing, so kudos to that family because it didn't end up working for us. So we had no excuse. Technically, we had a big table. We had access to 2 tables, so we could have left the game. We just didn't have time.
We didn't really have time. That was the major thing. We probably had one day, and what we could have done was gotten maybe a play or two in. We could have tried to cram out a video on it or how you play smaller games when traveling, but it really just wasn't ideal timing because the only day we got was the day after we arrived. And anyone that's been to Orlando International Airport will tell you that even when you get in at a reasonable hour, it's still slow. So that really kind of put a damper on everything. The following day we got rain. We had some time to play, but we didn't really get anything done. Other than that, we didn't have a lot of time as a family to play because we had a little guy with us and he was just going left, right, and center, always going.
So that's another point. So for us, we've definitely have some experiences traveling and playing games before child
Yes.
that were fine. Actually, we have one example, but we had no child with us.
Yes, makes the big difference.
We went away for a weekend, tiny little hotel in Toronto, but they wheeled in a table for us to have breakfast, and we're like, cool, now we have a table.
Not a tiny little hotel, just a smaller room.
Okay, small room, no place to play a game, but then they wheeled in a table for us to have breakfast, so we were like, sweet, there's room to play the game now.
Yep.
And that actually went pretty well. We kept the table, we didn't give it back to them until we checked out, so there you go. Before child, we played quite a few different locations. Even on our honeymoon, we didn't really, that hotel room was even smaller in New York City. We didn't really have a table. We kind of had like a desk. We got Pulp
Detective, and even then it was pushing space. So that is the biggest issue when you're traveling is going to be the space that you're going to have. Now the games that we brought with us were very, they fit on pretty much any table. We had Age of War, we had Pulp Invasion, which is a solo game. I thought I might find some time to play that. And then we had the Zombicide Roll and Write game, and I'm drawing a blank on the game's subtitle. And most likely we would have played the Zombicide Roll and Write, but this is also something you need to remember when you travel. You're going to need to learn the game. And I did not learn the games beforehand. I think if I'd learned the games beforehand or was a little bit more enthusiastic about the other choices, so I would have to learn Zombicide, Pulp Invasion, and Age of War pretty fairly well. Just didn't happen.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple in this case, all the right intentions. You were able to pack despite the fact that we're only bringing a small suitcase and we're not filling the car. I mean, we've traveled before. We talked about road trip. We've traveled before where we took a road trip
box of games.
and we packed a box of games and a table, a folding table. So we were able to unpack the table and leave the game out, and we were able to play a couple different playthroughs of bigger table hog games because we had a whole other spare table to play on.
We had the table to play on. We also had some backup with your parents watching the little guy. We're also in an environment where it was, I would say, just more comfortable, more familiar for him, because a big difference than going and staying in a condo, whereas he was just staying at a different house. There's a lake, there's a whole bunch of different stuff on those occasions, because he was just outside. And even then, if he wanted to find us, he'd come in and say hello. We were able to play when he was sleeping. It was very much a different type of setup. We also just had more room overall, so we had a couple of different options, which is something we didn't really have in this last.
So
we had a good amount of room, but he was still be difficult to get away with him. Get away from him and not wake him up.
So before child, I mean, we've played in the Caribbean. I mean, that for us has been, very conducive to playing. We don't much enjoy, we prefer playing a board game than watching one of the shows at the resorts.
Yeah, not really much for those resort shows, so lots of time. And then when you get those little squalls of rain that come by that maybe last an hour and a half, well, you know what? It works fairly well for us too.
So we've had a lot of success that way. And I guess that's why we've remained optimistic every time that we think we can play. Maybe in the future when the little guy's a little bit older and able to partake, maybe when we would have had that rain day, he would have been more interested in doing that than running between the two rooms, running around playing kick the invisible ball.
Yes, and a whole bunch of other different types of games, not board games or card games. So when it comes to travel, we've talked a little bit about our experiences. I think we really want to just kind of get into the meat of what is a good travel game. So good travel games are going to be things that are not typically table hogs, or if they would be a table hog, they have been redesigned potentially to take up less space. Probably the best travel game we have is the Zombicide 2nd Edition Travel Edition, which you can find the review of, and I'll be linking it at the end of this video, where it does take that Zombicide 2nd Edition experience and pretty much gets it in this small portable box.
Well, I mean, anything that's small size, I'm thinking of the 5-minute games. Those are pretty, they're small.
But they still take up about this much room. What I was just pointing out, like Zombicide, you kind of fold out the board and it's more compact, and it's the full big Zombicide experience.
We were also able to play the Marvel
Dice Throne, but
again, that was because it was in a car, and it doesn't matter if it took a little bit more space.
No, Marvel Dice Throne we played in Toronto.
Yeah, but it was a car. We took the car to get there.
Yes, it didn't really matter, but actually, no, that could have flown for us very easily. It would have just
I have no idea what size boxes are. All I know is it worked.
Yeah, it was very easy to bring with us. Now, I brought all of it, but you could easily bring one of the Marvel Dice Throne boxes. That being said, it's still a bit of a table hog, and it's going to take up at least this much space. So depending on the table, it can be a little challenging.
Yeah, but again, when we went to the chalet, we brought a dungeon crawl with us. And
we were able to use just the dining room table to play Descent the first time that we went. It was after that we realized we really should probably pack a folding table. And I think when it comes to gaming and traveling, it's really going to be up to you to kind of curb your expectations or set your expectations, because depending on where you're going and what you're doing, it's going to be more challenging to get things played. I mean, we love Call to Adventure. You can see this. This is probably the typical size game for us. And it's, we can play it here on this table fairly easily. Anywhere else we're going, it's going to be a little bit more challenging. You can probably get this out, but what am I going to do with this stuff? And some of the extra stuff that's just, out because this is the campaign version, it's not going to be the most conducive for on the road. It is a bigger box, but it's still one that can travel fairly well. We also had a lot of success traveling with things like Legacy of Dragonhold and a lot of stuff that is, I would say, maybe board light is a way to do it, because there are some games that are a little bit more in that choose your own adventure style that you can pick up, like Legacy of Dragonhold. I know Red Raven Games has some, might be getting them mistaken with another studio, where you're doing almost a RPG like experience.
I don't have anything else to add, really.
No, I think traveling and gaming, it's something that we as gamers, that people that like to play board games, really think that we can do on every vacation. And I think what you're going to have to do is take a look at your itinerary, take a look at what you want to accomplish, and then realize that, when you're moving around a lot, you get tired. So you might have a little bit more bandwidth for a video game or a movie than you do to necessarily set up and tear down a board game. Now, the right one that's got your interest and with the right amount of table space, you'll probably get it played. Now, one game that I'm looking over that I kind of wish I'd been able to bring with me or could have gotten played is we do have the Hellboy card game, and this would have been the perfect time for it. Now, going to give a little bit of a critique on Mantic Games here because, they boxed that up with the expansion for Hellboy. So I don't have it in a small box. So that could be a thing that really affects the game as well. If you've gotten some deluxe packaging because you want your nice storage setup like Marvel Champions, realistically, Marvel Champions should travel fairly well. But when you have all of it, it really doesn't travel well anymore.
So on that note, we're going to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified when we have new content for you.
And take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to all of our social media feeds, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you'd like to see some pictures of Julie and I playing some travel games and any board games, make sure to check out those feeds. Also, the Zombicide travel stuff will be there as well. And then popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. In front of me will be our most recent release. In front of Julie's going to take you back to our review and how to play. Well, I think more of a review than anything else. I think we did a little bit of an overview of how it works of Zombicide 2nd Edition, the Travel Edition. I know I said edition a lot there. On that note, we're now going to
grab our drink
and grab our best friend. Remind you to keep playing games.